We continue the night with our next inductee into the PGA Golf Professional category. He was an accomplished player, but above all, the late George Henry Schneiter was also a visionary. Given a chance to elevate his job description by the PGA of America, he took the lead and transformed his new post into a portal of change in the game. Let's travel out to Utah and discover more about the remarkable life and legacy of George Henry Schneiter. Google the name George Henry Schneiter, and you get nearly 365,000 results, though few are related to this PGA professional, whose story you probably have never heard before, a story you'll now likely never forget.
It was front page news in the Salt Lake Tribune, and I thought, wow, I've never seen a front page story like this.
Regrettably, the headline was tragic.
The night that we got word of the car crash, we were having a banquet here at the country club. Not a dry eye went out of this place that night, and I'll remember that for a lifetime.
Fortunately for those closest to him, George had left behind a rich life, full of wonderful memories.
I was 13, and George gave me a pair of white shoes that he had been wearing. Made me play better. I know that, because they were George's shoes.
He did some magic tricks for us. I remember that. And he'd pull coins out of our ears and stuff, and I thought, how did he do that?
It was hard work, not hocus pocus, that earned him 3 Utah Open titles. And fame in a cherished, if unofficial, little outing.
1946, and my Uncle George was playing in the Masters at Augusta. And they have the par 3 event prior to the tournament, and Uncle George wins the tournament, the par 3. So that was pretty neat. And I screamed that all over town.
He grew up with really not much of anything.
At 5, he was caddying. At 15, he was the assistant pro.
And when did he get the pro job?
And then at 18, he was the head pro.
Head pro at 18.
Wow.
What a responsibility for a young man with not a lot of education.
Right.
George was so smooth for never having gone to college.
George was a persuasive person.
He could talk the leaves right out of the trees.
He only had an 8th grade education, and to do all that he did with having his own finance companies is unheard of.
George's business acumen proved helpful when the game arrived at a critical juncture.
He could soon recognize that in order for us to have a voice out here, he needed to get involved, and so he met with the early PGA other members and got the Rocky Mountain section formed and operating.
Next, the PGA saw an opportunity for a national tour, but someone was needed to spearhead the administrative side. The man who would later earn the moniker the Czar of Golf led the way with his innovative spirit.
He took the next step up to help initiate the original PGA Tour.
What he had done in Utah was a model for what they took nationally.
Arnold Palmer made a couple of trips out here based on that Utah Open legacy that he started.
Schneiter was asked by then PGA President Ed Dudley to serve as PGA Tournament Bureau Manager, the role equivalent to today's PGA Tour Commissioner. He took his responsibility to new heights, establishing guidelines that are still in place today.
This one here is at Augusta. Here's Grandpa. And Sam Snead is right behind him. He called him Georgie. He's got his hands on his shoulders. He said, had the sweetest swing in golf.
If you want to describe a perfect swing, I think he had it.
And so he earned another nickname, this time from Ben Hogan, Velvet.
I've had other people that caddied for my grandfather, and they said that they loved shagging balls for him because they didn't ever have to move.
It starts out at about 50 yards. It'd be one bouncing them right on your chest. Move you back 10 more yards, same thing. Hit a half a dozen drivers, drop them right at your feet.
With equal footing, he stood among giants.
Have you guys seen this? This is a letter from Ben Hogan just after he got in his car accident. Wow. And it says, I want you to know that I appreciate your kind remarks and also your well wishes.
How about this letter from Bob Hope? George Schneiter, PGA Tournament Committee. I would like nothing better than to go to Salt Lake and break the course record. I will also try to bring my son, Hacker Crosby, with me. What a deal.
Tonight, he rightfully joins golf's legends.
My grandkids, my great-grandkids, in fact, are saying, how about Grandpa George?
This is for everybody, everyone in the family. I think that's what my grandfather would say. What an honor.
So the band is playing My Way, and it makes me think that Ben Hogan saying that he liked your grandfather's swing would be like Frank Sinatra telling somebody that they liked the way he sang. He did so much. What comes to mind? I mean, as an organizer, as a player, as a presence in the history of the game. Why don't we get some perspective from the three of you guys? Let's start here.
I think the whole story that he was taken by the people of the Ogden Country Club to be their golf professional at age 18, and had a successful stint there, and then he went on to the Salt Lake Country Club, and then on to Broadmoor with Ed Dudley, and then he went into the PGA management.
Yeah, and as an organizer as well, right?
Yeah. He went out and would organize the tournaments, and he would, get the purses, play with, get all the sponsors, and it was quite a deal.
He'd be dictating letters on the way in the car with my Aunt Jane, who was the press secretary at the time, from tournament to tournament, and he'd just dictate the letters and
Must have been quite a character, too, from some of those letters.
Yeah. He made friends. He had a lot of movers and shakers as friends.
And I just think about the fact that, all three of you PGA professionals and what it's meant to be a PGA professional in your family and the legacy that he started. That must be enormously meaningful to all three of you.
He was such a leader for us. The way he conducted himself, his knowledge, his love of the game, the way he was with people. He was always so comfortable, and they were comfortable being with him. And I think we're just very fortunate to have had that legacy to try to live up to.
Yeah, and he started it all for the family, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what did that mean eventually? You all became PGA professionals. It's been enormously meaningful in your life.
Oh yeah, he was, I think he believed he was on a mission, a man on a mission. He loved golf and he carried it out.
What about all the ties? I mean, we saw the letters, we heard the people that he spoke with. Do those ties, were they enduring? Did they continue throughout the years for your family?
Yes, they did. They did. They were good friends until the accident in the 1963 or 4 there.
What did those ties mean to the family?
Oh, a lot. In fact, I remember going and playing with George Eccles and his wife in Palm Springs. And my dad kept the ties that he had with his, because he was a good friend of my grandfather's. And when we'd go to Palm Springs, we could play golf with some of these friends. And
so if he was here, what kind of guy was he? A very outgoing guy? If he was here, what do you think he'd be saying to this crowd of people who are gathered here to honor him?
He'd say, wow, you guys have really done a great job with what we started there. You carried the ball well. Yeah, he really would. He'd be so impressed. This is what he was working toward.
Well, great night for your family, guys. I know you must all be enormously proud. Thank you so much for being here, being a part of the PGA family, and of course, the Schneiter family. A great night for all of you. George Henry Schneiter into the PGA Hall of Fame.
Thank you, Jim.